Many seek to find roles, while some define them. Ms. Nitasha Devasar, the managing director of Taylor and Francis India, is a seasoned academic publisher with over 2 decades of experience in leading teams and managing content. In her current role, she focuses equally on business development and acquiring high quality academic content from India relevant to global markets. She is a part of the Taylor and Francis Group's Women Leadership Program and mentors aspiring leaders within the organization. Then Academic Publishing Director at Oxford University Press India, she published over 2,000 academic books, contributing substantively to the outreach of scholarship on South Asia. In 2012, she set up Publish Incorporated, a consulting firm that partnered with academic societies, universities, and government agencies for effective outreach of quality research. Nitasha is the General Secretary of the API, the Association of Publishers in India, and sits on the board of the IRRO, the Indian Reprographic Rights Organization. She writes occasionally on a leadership journey in prestigious publishing magazines. Pay heed to the notable words from Nitasha.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I am going to talk about education research, the impact of education research and publishing in a wider context. And I will actually be echoing, I listened to the morning session with great interest. I'll actually be echoing many of the sentiments and views expressed in the morning. So whether it's about quality, content, dissemination, collaboration, opportunities, all of that I'm going to talk about, but from a publishing perspective. And since it's from a publishing perspective, I thought I'd start by telling you all a little bit about Taylor and Francis. We have a 200-year-old legacy of publishing. We are one of the world's biggest academic publishers and the largest social science publisher. We do about 5,000 new books every year, 2,600 journals, and a backlist of over 100,000 titles. And we basically publish in all the areas we talked about this morning and a few more as well. We have footprints in about 20 countries, over 20,000 employees. India is the third biggest market for us for print books, and as such a really important focus of investment, both in terms of the development of content, that is basically commissioning high quality content from India, as well as the dissemination of high quality content from the globe in this market. So to start with today's presentation, this is a really interesting quote and very apt for the topic we are discussing this afternoon, today actually, the whole day. And this is it's not the future of India, it is the future is India. And this is a sentiment which we hear a lot these days. It's a big part of our public discourse. And the reason for it really is very simple. It's numbers. The numbers, oops, what did I do? The numbers favor us. 2020, 64% of our population is going to be in the working group age. It'll be all of your students basically who will be there in that 64%. By 2050, we will overtake China and actually become the biggest economy. So clearly the numbers are in our favor. The aspirations of our young people are also in line with these numbers. This is a very interesting study about engineering. It's a global study which shows that, 16 to 17-year-olds, 80% in India are looking for a career in engineering, as opposed to 20 to 30% in places like the US and UK. So that's huge, absolutely huge. So these are really interesting statistics, and today I'm going to look at the Triumvirate, which is basically the trio of education, research, and publishing to explore this landscape a little bit more. What does it really mean? So we're going to take each one of these in turn. The first, obviously, is education. Here again, the numbers are mind-boggling. I mean, 70 million students, which means that 1 in 4 graduates coming out of this country, 1 in 4 graduates coming out of the world is actually from this country. The responsibility of all the teachers in the room is immense. Look at these numbers. Research trends actually reflect this, same numbers. So if you look at research output from countries similar to India, so that is emerging or developing economies, you find India is the yellow curve, so consistently increasing high quality scientific output coming out of India. Publishing actually reflects this landscape of, the surge in education and research. A recent Nielsen study has actually pegged the Indian publishing industry at almost $4 billion. Now this is just English language, mind you, just English language. And it's slated to grow at 20%. Now, there are a lot of people from industry here. How many industries are growing at 20%? So it's pretty large. And when we are talking about publishing, we are actually, in the context for this audience, it's about dissemination of the research, of the usage, the skilling part of education. Obviously, this has meant that there are a whole lot of opportunities, and those opportunities, as we heard this morning, are being exploited. I mean, all the examples here were actually covered, so I'm not going to go over them in detail. So whether it's R&D being done out of here, or chips being created, or patents being applied for, India is at the forefront. Compelling, interesting. But if the picture is so rosy, so beautiful, then how come ICT Academy exists and is so successful? Why are all of you here? So I think there's more to that picture, there's more to the story, and that's what I really want to talk about today. Again, I picked up the example, look at education more closely just by looking at engineering. HRD ministry figures are saying 6,000 plus engineering and technology institutions and almost 3 million students enrolled. 20 to 30% students are actually not getting jobs. Of the ones, the aspirations, as you remember that 80% figure. Now 90% of these people want jobs, actually most of them want jobs either in core engineering or in computers. 90% are not good enough. So less than 10% of these people graduating are getting jobs in these core sectors. And 30% plus are not getting any jobs. Bulk are ending up into low salary jobs or moving out of this sector into. So clearly, both employment and employability are concerns. Look at research. Now here, this slide actually shows research publication in our journals over the last 20 odd years. And this is the BRICS and MINTs, the emerging economies. The countries are listed on the side. As you can see, the green mark going up out of this chart is China. India is consistently, is the second line going consistently. Research from India is increasing. That's clearly showing here. But if you look at citation reports, which are really an index of the visibility and influence of research, bridging the gap. India is not only well below the global average, which is that line drawn there, but is below even countries like Africa, Africa overall, South Africa, Russia, so it's the lowest. So the same trend, though research is increasing, the influence of that research is not where we want it to be. International collaborations, this is something which is of interest to this audience. Again, from a viewpoint of research, if you just look at 2014, the figures are really good. 85 countries, researchers from India collaborated and published research with co-authors from 85 countries. Sounds great. But when you compare, looking again at both developed and comparable economies, the output is the lowest. Now these are really, this is a macro picture. So I said, let's get more specific. Look at something, just, so I said last 12 months, what have we published? In our 2,900 journals globally, we have published 400,000 scholars. 400,000 articles have been published in TNF journals in the last 12 months. The authorship from India is 4%. This is really troubling, even from the viewpoint of where I'm standing as an academic, is an Indian counterpart of a global publisher, academic publisher operating out of India. And India being such an important market, one of my key concerns is increasing high quality content from India going out into the world. And this stands at 4%. So clearly, we need to do something. And I'm going to share with you what we as academic publishers are doing in this to increase. And it is my personal goal, I'll share with all of you. I want this number to double in the next 2 years from India. And we are going to work, me and my team, to actually do that. Some of the ways in which we are already started doing that, to bridge that quality gap, is that we provide free or discounted content. This is high quality international research made available to scholars in India for their research and their functioning. So we provide through STAR, through Research for Life and various other initiatives, access to this research. The other thing is mentoring and support services to authors. Now these can be as basic as how to publish. How do I publish an article in an academic journal? Or which of those 2,900 journals that TNF has will my research fit in? It could be as basic as that. It could be copy editing services, language support, because that identifies as an area where scholars from India require support. And it can go up to the other end of the spectrum, which would be how to make my research visible, how to climb the citation charts to increase the influence of my research. So the whole gamut of services we are offering to authors, to researchers, to scholars in institutions, to people who are teaching. Author workshops and roundtables are the other thing that we do, and this is actually face-to-face. It would be an interaction like this, maybe not so many people, but where we get in experts from Taylor and Francis globally to come and talk to authors, interact with them, give them the latest know-how, talk about technology, and answer their questions, their specific research concerns. We have them across the country and every year. In fact, we try to make them less Delhi and metro-centric and move into other parts of the country. We also do things like surveys, white papers, road shows. These are all methods of sharing and communicating with all the stakeholders in the academic chain. So it could be librarians, it could be researchers and teachers, it could be heads of institutions, it could be industry and education, research, innovation centers. So the whole chain, we work, we research, we interact, and at the end of it, know-how, technology, any kind of wherewithal is shared and collaborations built. And really, when it works, we have found, and that's been our experience, that when it works, it can really be quite powerful. These are just two examples of journals that we have at Taylor and Francis. One is an Indian journal, the Strategic Analysis, and the other is an international journal coming out of the US, Information Society, where these journals are actually platforms for interaction, for influencing decision-making, for voicing wider opinions, for getting in stakeholders to actually collaborate and then make a difference in the real world. So if it works, it can work beautifully, and that's our aim. So to conclude, coming back to my triumvirate, this, if you can have quality education, provide access to good quality content, outreach that, the impact and the enabling ecosystem can bridge the gap. So I believe that numbers are startling, the challenges are great, but there is hope. And in the end, I would paraphrase that and say that if we can get it right, then the future can be India. Thank you very much.